You aren't staying at your job because of the salary. You're staying because of a very specific, very expensive illusion of safety. We call them the golden handcuffs. You've probably heard me talk about them before, but I wanted to bring this topic back up today. So, a lot of times, these golden handcuffs, it's going to feel secure. They look shiny to your friends and your family, but they really are tethering you to this life that, if we're being honest, it's draining you of the best years of your career. So today, what we're going to be doing is what I love to call a freedom audit. We're going to find out exactly what it costs to buy your life back. And I'm willing to bet that your escape number, the amount you actually need to leave, is much lower than that number keeping you up at 2 o'clock. So if you're ready to stop being that high paid prisoner and start moving towards this idea of what I call the sovereign CEO, right? Let's go ahead and get into the escape framework. So most of my clients, they come to me saying, Chenise, I need to match my 150, 250, 500K salary before I can even think about quitting. And honestly, like that's the first lie. And what tends to happen is when you work that 9 to 5, as you guys know, right, that gross salary, it's not necessarily the same as your take home freedom. And you have to subtract what I like to call the cost of being employed. So what does that mean? There's a couple different things. So the first thing that I think about when I think about this whole cost of being employed, it's going to be that high-end wardrobe you only wear for meetings, right? When I worked in my corporate job, I had, the clothes that I wore every day to work. And then whenever we had a big quarterly meeting or our president or our VP was in the office, something a little bit different that I would wear, right? So that's what I mean when I talk about that high-end wardrobe, those $15 salads because you're too tired to meal prep. And if we're being honest, I think all of us have had those moments when, maybe we go on Pinterest or maybe we look at a new meal subscription. We're like, this is the week, I'm going to go ahead and prep my meals ahead of time. I'm not going to hit up the cafeteria or run out to Panera or wherever. I'm going to go ahead and meal prep. And we all know that doesn't happen. So you end up spending that 15 bucks, 20 bucks, whatever for lunch day in and day out. And honestly, might even do that for dinner too. Another thing that comes into place is this idea of convenience tax, right? You're too tired to take care of all the things that are done. You're doing all of this commuting. So you pay for grocery delivery, you pay for a dog walker, maybe premium cleaning, even because you have zero time, right? So all of these things start adding up when you think about it. And I know for me, like I had, I always had my groceries delivered just because I didn't have time no matter what I did, right? The groceries were always delivered. I didn't get my dog until much later, so I didn't have to worry about that. But there were things that I found myself needing to outsource because going and doing a 9 to 5, going and, commuting there and back, picking up the kid, all of that, right? There just wasn't time to get all of that done. And then most importantly, the corporate therapy spending. Now, this isn't even talking about real therapy, right? This isn't even talking about, hey, I'm dealing with, all of these situations at work. I need to talk to somebody in a professional setting. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about this idea of where, you find yourself saying, oh my goodness, it's been a hell of a week. I deserve these new shoes. Or my favorite, right? It's been a hell of a week. I'm going to go buy some candles, maybe get some new artwork. Like I loved having cool things to look at my, in and around my house. Just because I was like, when I'm at work, like it's just so locked in, very monotone. Like I just need something colorful and bright when I'm at home to give me something different, right? So things like that. So, and again, like I said, that's not even actual therapy that some people find themselves leaning into when they are in these corporate jobs. And so when we think about it, the first thing that we have to do is strip those away, right? What is your actual baseline for a happy, dignified life? Go ahead, write that number down. And that's your first milestone, not that 150, 250, 500K. So the next thing is this idea of the seed investor strategy. So what do I mean by that? So if you take the time and look at your current paycheck differently, so stop looking at it as the salary, right? This is the money that I'm bringing home every week, every other week, and start looking at it as your seed investment. So while you're still on your 9 to 5, your employee is literally funding your startup. So every 2 weeks, they're handing you the capital to build your escape pod. So use this time to fund your business, your basics. What are the things that you can do ahead of time? Are there subscriptions that you need to look into? Is there software that you need to look into? Is there maybe legal filings that you need to get taken care of? A business bank account that you need to get set up. So, this is where you use that time to really, really build your runway. Another thing that I love to encourage people in this phase two is this idea of if there are things that you need for your business, figure out how your current job can help you get them. So, for example, when I was in my corporate job, I decided that I wanted to go and get my master's program. And I even decided that I wanted to go and get my coaching license. And so I was able to have my corporate job fund a portion of me going back to school, getting my master's program, have them fund a portion of me going and get my coaching license and certificate as well. So if you're in a situation where you're like, I know what it is that I'm going to do next, maybe there's some additional education that I'm going to need to have under my table. Either I need it or I would like to have it, or might make things easier. Go ahead and use either the paycheck to fund that you're getting now, or even see if your job has some kind of matching program or benefits to help you go ahead and get that education now. I actually was working with a client last month who was telling me that his corporate role had all of these different amazing certifications that he was able to take advantage of, and he was trying to determine if he should utilize those. And I was like, dude, go ahead, lock in, like, go ahead, get those knocked out. So yeah, if you have those opportunities, don't leave them on the table. Make sure that you're using your current paycheck, the current opportunity, the current place that you're working in to really help fund some of these future endeavors that you have, tossing around in your mind. So phase three, I like to call the skill arbitrage, right? And so what do I mean by that? So the second part of this audit, it's not about money. It really is about assets. And this is where we think more so. And when I say assets, I don't mean your house, your car, a boat, whatever, vacation home. I'm talking about like what are the things that you have in terms of high value intellectual property. And one of the things that I love talking about is the fact that as individuals, like we need to realize it's not that we're good at our job. There's these amazing skills and talents that we have that we can utilize in all of these crazy, amazing, fantastical ways. So, if you manage a team of 20, it's not that you're just a manager, you're an operations strategist, right? Like, what are the actual skills that you're leaning on, the skills that you're utilizing every single day to accomplish these amazing things at work? And then how can you transfer those skills into something that everybody's going to be excited about? If you handle corporate communications, you aren't a writer, right? You are a brand architect. So stop thinking in terms of titles and start thinking about your skills more more along the lines of what it is that you offer, what are the problems that you solve, and what are the solutions that you're putting out there for people. And so your golden handcuffs, right? They feel tight because you think that your company owns those skills, and that could not be further from the truth. They don't. They're your skills. The companies, they're just renting them. And the moment you realize that, you can rent those same skills to 3 private clients for double the hourly rate, right? The handcuffs vanish. So I would encourage you guys, right, to really lean into this phase three, really think about taking a look at your skills, taking a look at your assets. Again, assets in terms of what it is that you do, and say, okay, let me not just focus on my titles. What are the things that I'm doing every single day, whether that's at work, at home, in the community, at church? What are the things that I'm doing every single day? How am I showing up? What are the problems that I'm solving, the solutions that I'm putting out there? And who else would these solutions benefit, right? Because that is always going to be the foundation of a business, regardless of what it is. So, and I'm so sorry, guys. One of these days, I promise I'll get better and I'll stop being sick. For now, I'm going to be coughing every once in a while. But just to wrap up, within that, right, this whole idea of like the chaos of wanting to leave but feeling trapped, it really does end the moment that you have a blueprint. And so your escape plan, it's not just a dream, it's a math problem, right? And once we solve math, the fear has nowhere to hide. And for me, like I'm very much like a logical, like let me see it on paper kind of individual. Some people, they are able to think about things just more in terms of emotions, like I feel, I want. But if you are one of those like logic, numbers, let me write it out kind of person, let me know. I actually did put together something that I'm calling the freedom calculator, right? Lets you take those numbers, figure out what that looks like for you, lets you play around with different options so that you can say, okay, what is it that I need to walk away? What does my runway need to look like? And better yet, what are the skills that I can start leaning into now? And what are the areas that I can, play around with, so to speak, grow and lean into while I'm currently in my corporate role. So stop waiting for this whole idea of like the right time, right? The right time was yesterday. The next best time is right now. I heard somebody say that and I thought it was fantastic. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. Would love to help support you in that. I'm encouraged that to see what it is those numbers are for you guys. And let's go out there and be awesome. Don't let this idea of the golden handcuffs hold you back. Really lean into this, push into this idea of figuring out your runway is so that you have a concrete goal, a concrete deadline, a time frame even to start changing things. So it's been a pleasure talking to all of you. I hope that you have a fantastic Tuesday and the rest of the week, and we will chat again next week.